Hi, Andre from Peak Motorcycles here. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I'm fitting these Outback Motortek upper crash bars to my Honda CRF300 Rally. I know that Outback Motortek have their own excellent installation videos that really do show you everything, more or less. There were a few things I noticed when I went through it, so I thought this was worth doing. My intention for these is to put them on the bike and then to use them to mount some spotlights to. So there's a few things around the assembly which I think might be relevant to that, particularly around the fact that you have to fit these with the bodywork in place. So I think for running the cables for my spotlights that might be interesting. But anyway, I'll have a go and I'll see how I get on. First things first, I'll show you all the bits, and I apologise in advance, but then I'm going to weigh them. They are quite heavy and they are actually made from bigger steel than these Outback Motortek pannier frames are that are on my bike. I think the pannier frames are 18mm. These look like they're probably 20mm, but I will measure them. So these are the parts that you get. This and this is the engine bars. These are the two brackets that bolt onto the engine. Now these two really long bolts here with the spacers, these actually replace the through bolts on the engine, so just on the front side of the engine, and are used to hold these plates in place that the other bolts bolt to. There's then this crossbar which goes across at the front just to give it some extra strength. These bolts are used to secure the crash bars to the end of here, and then I think we have a couple of extra bolts which will go in at the top end that will actually replace the ones on the bike that go in at the top end of the fairing. The first thing I'm just going to do is just have a quick measure of the tubes. I'm sure someone might be interested in how thick these are. And yep, these are 22mm tubes, so you know they're pretty substantial. They are powder coated, as are all of the sort of the structural components. I think they look pretty good. The welds are all pretty high quality. I've had a few other things from Outback Motortek, and I've generally been pleased with how they look. They are heavy, and to that end, I'm now just going to quickly weigh them. I'm not going to weigh all the screws and bolts just because, first of all, they're not particularly heavy. And also I'm going to be taking some of the hardware off the bike, so in particular the ones that mount the top end of the bars, also the through bolts. So, you know, for the sake of a few centimetres of bolt, I don't think that's worth weighing. So here we go. So the first thing I'm going to weigh are these brackets. Now these brackets are really heavy duty. If you've seen any of the videos that Outback Motortek have done, you'll see how that they do actually crash test these quite extensively. So putting one on, that one is 750 grams. I'm going to add another one. Just going to lay down like that. So that's 1,000. So that second one is actually pretty much exactly a kilo. So that's 1.75 kilos. And then if I put the crossbar on as well, where can I balance that? So that's 2 kilos and 28 grams. So just over 2 kilos. I'm just going to take that off while I weigh the bars. So the first one, 1386 and 1338. They're not exactly symmetrical, just simply because how they fit to the bike. So the total weight for all the components is actually about 4.75 kilos. So this is a heavy thing to add to the bike. For a comparison, that extra 5 kilos of weight, that's about the difference between a full tank of fuel on the Rally versus a full tank of fuel on the L. It's not ideal, and for the most part I've actually been trying to keep my bike as light as possible. And actually by replacing components with ones which are lighter. Now to put these on, it's not even replacing anything on the bike, so it is 4.75 kilos of additional weight. Having said that, the fairings are quite exposed high up, and to have these on in conjunction with a bash plate means that the bike is fully protected. I'll certainly put them on, I'll try them. If over time I'm finding that it is just too much weight, they will probably come off again and I'll take my chances with the fairing. But for now I'll go through the fitting with you. So if you've seen the Outback Motortek installation video, they actually start off with the bash plate removed. Now I think that you actually do have to take it off simply because you need to move the side panels out. I've already got the front panel removed from mine because I've just fitted my Arrow exhaust and I didn't want to put it back on just to take it off again. So I'm not going to go through this. I've done loads of videos about the bash plates, so all I'm going to do is just remove this now. Okay, and that just comes off. Next thing to do is to remove all of these bolts. You don't need to take the whole panel off. This is just so that you can, you seem to be able to pull this apart a little bit to be able to get the crash bars in. So that's all loose. This one has to come off as well. And this one up here, this is actually where it attaches, and I think I used the new bolts instead of the ones provided, instead of the stock ones. Okay, I'm just going to do the same on the other side. I think to get to the bolts, I'm going to have to remove these ones as well on each side. It is still held in place by the Velcro along the tank and by the top one up there. You can see in here, it's these two bolts here that need to come out. So on this end I can see there is the lock nut, which is a 14mm socket. Let's pop that on there. I don't think my ratchet is quite going to clear that. The far side looks like it's 14 as well. This is something that's definitely easier with two ratchets. Where's that top bolt? Okay, so I've got the nut off the end of there. There are actually two spacers that go between the frame and the engine, and there's also a washer on that far side. So I'll take that off. Okay, so that's the washer. Just in there. There we go. And then the next thing to come out is this spacer. And there is no washer at this end, just these two spacers, so let's take those out. Okay, that one is actually pretty much jammed in there, so I'm not actually going to try and get that out. I'll just take out the lower bolt. Oh, that one's stiff. Need a longer handle. Okay, so now that upper spacer has just dropped out. That was the one that I missed earlier because it was too tight with the lower bolt in. It'll be exactly the same on the bottom, except now everything is a lot looser. That's that off the end. Oh, and actually this bolt is coming out a lot more easily than the other one. And that's the first spacer, and then the second spacer, which does actually seem to be snug. So this bit is a bit fiddly. Hopefully I can see it as I put this together. So essentially what I'm going to put on is this bracket. So this bracket is the one that's got the funny cutouts for the exhaust. And this needs to be fitted inside the exhaust header. I'm going to take this long bolt that came with the bars and this big spacer. So it's basically going to go through there, through the bracket. So the bracket would go on here. Then we'll have the spacer. Then we'll have the frame. Then there's the inner spacer goes through the engine, spacer on the other side, and then the other bracket goes on the other side. And then we'll have the lock nut there. So let's see if we can get this in with the camera in the way. So that's just going to tuck through in there, like that, and that's just nicely shaped so it fits around the engine. So next thing is I'm going to put that bolt through there. Does that need to go? Oh, it's quite high. And then the next thing, and this is quite fiddly, is to put this spacer on. And then that goes through the engine like that. And then there's another spacer to go in there. Pull that bolt back out. Just see if I can slot that spacer in. There we go. Okay. So that is going to slot through. And I want another spacer on this side. So the one that goes on this side is actually this smaller one. Okay, so that one was right. So now I'm just going to put the lower bolt in as well. This one is a bit tricky to get the spacer in. because there's just not a lot of room to do that. So I can push it in from behind. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, maybe you can't, I apologise if that's the case. There we go. So that is in there. Okay, now I just need to get the OEM spacer to go in. That one just goes in to that gap there. That will hopefully go through and out the other side. Okay, so that bracket is in fully. Now I just need to go and put the one in on the far side. Yeah, so on this side, put the small spacer in at the bottom there, and then I do have all the other spacers in, just checking. So this is a bit easier, I think, because there's no exhaust header, in theory. Although on this side, even though there's no exhaust header, there isn't quite as much clearance, just because this side panel is attached to the expansion tank. But I should be able to just get this in. There we go. That's in there. Put a washer on. These are the new washers, not the ones that that came. No, not the OEM ones that came on. Just hold that there for a sec, and put the original nut in. There we go. That wasn't too bad. It was quite stiff getting the bolts out in the first place, but actually once they're off, it's that's pretty easy. So now the lower one as well. And there. The bolts are actually going through the opposite way round, but it does make sense because the bolts are long, and the left side fairing does come away more easily than the right. Now the one thing that I will need for this is a 15mm now, because the supplied bolts are bigger. They're a 15 instead of a 14 that the stock ones were, but that's fine. Okay, I will tighten that up once everything is assembled. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fit the crash bar on the right hand side of the bike. This is in the reverse order to how they did it in their video, but I've already got the camera on this side of the bike and I don't want to move it twice. So this is the bar and how it goes on, and that needs to kind of thread inside there, and then this bolt goes through here with a bit of thread lock. I don't know who's putting on the Outback Motortek badges, but guys, you've got these ones on upside down. Maybe they're for the Australian market. Aha. I'm sure I can get that off with a bit of heat, and then maybe I'll just leave it off, or I'll flip it around the other way and try and glue it back on again. But yeah, I'm just going to get a bolt for that. I'm just going to put a bit of thread lock on it as well, just to hold it. Okay, so I'm just going to fit that in. That goes against there. That one goes into that hole. The next one is a bolt to go through there. So that's just one of these ones with the nylock nut. I can see these being a little bit fiddly to get on, but I'm sure it'll be fine. There we go. Now this does fit through the fairing, so bear in mind that if you're going to be doing any other work to the bike, like I was where I was actually changing my exhaust, you want to do that before you fit these crash bars, otherwise you're going to be taking them off again to get the fairing off. Let's see if I get this little ratchet in around the back. It's not completely tight yet, but I'll tighten everything up at the end. Right, now to go around the other side and fit the crash bar to the far side. So on this side, it's exactly the same. I'm just going to put some thread lock on this long bolt, push that through the hole. Again, this side also has the badge on upside down, but yeah, it's easily fixed. And honestly, I'm sure it's easily done. When these things are on the bench, it's quite hard to work out exactly which way around they go. I'm sure that they'll have got that right on the other ones. Okay, so that's that in. I just need to get a bolt to go in down there. Same as the other side, it's just like that, one washer each side and nylock nut on the inside. Having the nylock nut means, I suppose, that it's less likely to come loose. Now to get the nut on the back of there is actually a bit tighter on this side. I'm sure there's a good reason for that. Okay, so this one looks like it's actually going to need a spanner, because even on this wrench it's not going to go. Okay, that's pretty good. So the last thing I've got to do is just to put the crossbar in on the inside. This is the last piece to go in, and this basically has to fit between the bracket here and the same one on the other side. It's not that easy to see. If I turn the wheel a bit, maybe you can just about see them in there. So yeah, that fits in the middle between those. Okay, I'm going to go around, I'll put the bolts through. I'm just going to pull it apart a little bit just to get it to fit. So I think that is everything. So now I can just go around and I will tighten everything up. I'll move the camera back a bit just so I can get around everything a bit easier, but I'm just going to do this and then speed it up. Now I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that is actually touching the mudguard, which is not ideal. I'm sure there must be a way that I can orientate that so it's actually pointing more down or up, but I don't really want it to be touching. Just checking, there's nothing else I can really do with that. Maybe low, unless I've got it on upside down, which is possible. I'll check. Okay, so I have checked it, and this piece is in the right way around, but as you can see, that does actually just snag on the back of the front mudguard. Now what I'm going to do is, because I can see just there where it's rubbing, I'm going to tighten everything up. I'm going to push that down as far as I can. Maybe once it's all tightened up, it won't be a problem and it'll be clear. And if it is, I guess I'll just put some helicopter tape or something on there, and I shall mention it to the guys over at Outback Motortek. Right then, I will now finish up tightening everything up, and then I should be good to go. So this does take a while actually. These ones in particular, this one and the other two, they really are quite fiddly to do. You don't have a great deal of space to move a ratchet, so this is going to take a while, so it's going to be done super fast. So I think I'm almost done. All of these are now tight. That is still touching on there, which is not ideal. I'm now just going to tighten up the two main bolts again, and then I think I'm finished. Just need to refit the bodywork, and then I'm done. So one thing I will do is I think I'm just going to take these off. I think they're just stuck on, so hopefully, oh yeah, that's coming loose pretty easily. They were an upside down. I guess I could just refit them the right way up. I guess they'll just go on, oh, maybe I will. Let's pop that on the right way up and I'll go around and do the same on the other side, and just take the little film off it. I'll just give you a quick look so you can see how these look on the bike. So this is the one on the right hand side. You see it's bolted on through in there on one side. I'll come underneath, you can just about hopefully see in there. Just move the mudguard out of the way, you can see it a bit better. That's how it's bolted on the upper one. What you can't see is that the bracket that is fixed to is actually down and inside. I'll just give you a quick look around the other side. And on this side, similar thing, mounting point up here. It's now got the sticker the right way up. And again, fitted in, bolted in here. This is particularly challenging to get tight, but I managed to get it done. And then the same thing on this side. I'll give you a look in there. So that's it. That is my video on how to fit these Outback Motortek upper crash bars to a Honda CRF300 Rally. I don't think these ones will fit a CRF300L simply because it doesn't have the mounting point up there. But then again, if you've got a CRF300L, you probably don't need them anyway. You don't have these expensive side panels to protect. I hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, and liking and subscribing is your thing, then please do. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.